Hello there again, friends. Today is 12/31/2021, and this is Odin Project Vlog Day 27. Um, Today's going to be a long one. I have a feeling because it's Flex-Layout-2. It's our last exercise of this series, this set, if you will, in this alignment module, and it's beefy. It's very beefy. I just want to let you know now this one might run a little late, so. Um, I will speak a little bit faster and try to keep things moving, but without further ado, let's get started. So, again, we're on Module 7, or excuse me, Exercise 7, which is Flex Layout 2. I kind of took the approach on this one as I did with the previous exercise and when we had the discussion about breaking things up into chunks. Um, this is a beefy one, but if you break it up into smaller chunks, it's pretty manageable. So I'll do my best to explain it. Again, it's gonna be kind of hard at times because picked it up for a while, set it down, picked it up, set it down as we've done in the past. So some things don't flow super great, but I'll do the best job I can of explaining it, and then we'll go over the solution as we normally do. So let's get started. So the README file, it says in this last Flexbox exercise, you're going to recreate an incredibly common website. It is so common that it is often called the Holy Grail, which I did Google that. Click that link anyway. Layout, and with Flexbox, it is actually pretty easy to pull off. As with previous exercises, we've left a little more for you to do. Hint: you'll need to change the Flexbox direction to push the footer down. You'll need to add some divs as containers to get things to line up correctly. FlexWrap will help get the cards aligned correctly. And then desired outcome. We'll go over that in a minute. The number of cards line up in that section, excuse me, the number of cards lined up in that section will change based on the width of your screen, so don't stress about getting exactly a 2x3 or 3x2 grid. On a smaller screen, it will look like this, and they show different pictures. Self-check. The header text is size 32 pixels and weighs 900. The header and text is vertically centered in 16 pixels from the edge of the screen. The footer is pushed to the bottom of the screen. The footer may go below the bottom of the screen if the content of the card section overflows and or if your screen is shorter. The footer text is centered horizontally and vertically. The sidebars and cards take up all the available space above the footer. The sidebar is 32 pixels wide and doesn't shrink. The sidebar links are size 24 pixels, white, and do not have underlying text. The sidebar has 16 pixels of padding. There are 32 pixels of padding around the cards section, and the cards are arranged horizontally but wrapped to multiple lines when they run out of room. So this sounds super detailed. You see I put pound in here on this time because as I completed them, I put a pound in to kind of a place marker to show myself where I completed it. And this is not a dig against Odin Project at all, but on this particular exercise, I found it kind of frustrating at times because whereas I probably won't have time to showcase these little nuances, I will say that not all the detail is in the README and the self-checks. It sounds like it sounds very specific. It is, but there's some very important nuances that are left out, and you got to kind of figure it out on your own. I don't know if they did that by design, since up here they kind of said we've left a little more for you to do. I'm guessing that's probably where now I say that's probably where that's coming from, but it created some headache for me nonetheless. So as you can see, there is a lot going on here. It's big. So the desired outcome is this. This is what you end up with, and then there's a shrink down version. They're just showing you if you change your screen size, this is how it should behave, stacked on top. And then and yeah, and so the screenshot here, this is what you start off with, I believe. I think I took a screenshot before I started. Yeah. And then at some point I took another screenshot to let you guys know that in the process I got stuck. And so I got formulated pretty good. So I went from here to this, but then I got stuck, and all this stuff was down here, and I could not, and I was so laser focused on trying to get this this nav section over here to bleed all the way down to the footer. Right? You see I got the footer set up correctly, I got the header set up correctly, but this was not flowing down and this wouldn't shift over, and I was having a heck of a time Googling and checking. So the culmination of this project is basically Google researching, document reading, and looking at some of the previous solutions. So I did not cheat. I did not look at the solution to this file until I obviously felt 100% complete, as I always do, and that I did that successfully. But so one thing I googled about the sticky footers again. Actually, I used this. We talked about this last time. I used this again in my code. I won't go over all this again for sake of time, but I also googled. I was looking on Stack Overflow on how to make the div Flexbox approach, making the div that height that I was just telling you I had a problem with the side nav, trying to get that to flow the entire way down, just getting different CSS ideas to try. And then I found this on Google, which was and I Google here BR just to make sure that that was page breaks. We'll talk about that in the page. Which again was one of my sticking points of not having something in the page. But anyway, I found this to be very helpful. I found this on the internet. This is Holy Grail layout using Flexbox, which is CodePen. I hate CodePen, but this worked out really well because it gave me kind of a template to work from to get my code to do what it needed to do, so it kind of looked like this. Now it wasn't exactly right because our exercise doesn't have a right-hand side nav; it's just a left. So I had to finagle it a little bit, but I was just showing you some of the resources I used. So that's that. So let's go over the HTML file that I produced. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through this line by line, but basically the things I added a couple divs, and this is the first div I added based on that CodePen site I found. Was I wrapped this div, Holy Grail body, wraps, come on, there you go, wraps all the way down. So it wraps inside of it the cards and the sidebar, which was already here called sidebar, and I created an additional container inside, a nested container called card container, and it contains all the center cards that you've seen in the outcome picture. And that's all that was added for that. So this we'll talk about the solution at the end. So if we scrunch that down, here is here's my style CSS. So let me bring this up again so we can kind of compare. Again, this is zoomed in. I'm going to be doing a lot of scrolling, so I'm sorry about that. But so up here we added this stuff was all in here except for the display and flex. So we added display, flex, and flex direction column. That's for body to get the entire thing to start flexing up and down with columns to make basically how I understand it is basically to make that footer go all the way to the bottom and behave like this, which is my end result. You'll see here to get it to do. I'm only going to show this once, so I have to keep going back and forth. But as you can see, it's responsive. The header grows and shrinks with the screen size. This footer grows and shrinks with the screen size. You notice the footer does disappear when I get here and doesn't really come back. I don't know if that's exactly right, but it works. And then you see the card shift as the screen size shifts, so which is good. That's what they asked for. And then the left hand nav here does not shrink at all. I can't collapse it far enough here on this screen, but it trust me, it doesn't move, and it's not supposed to. It's supposed to grow down vertically, which it does, which is good. So basically the page displays, to my knowledge and to my best of my knowledge and ability, it displays exactly as it should. So based on that behavior, we'll go ahead and check this stuff out. So the header text, so again, that's what display, flex, and flex direction does. And then we go down here to header, and our first self-check is the header text is size 32 pixels and weighs 900. So there's your weight of 900, there's your 32 pixels of font size, and then I added the display flex and align item center. Again, that part was a combination of research from previous exercises, particularly our previous one where we had set the header and you have basically set it as a flex item and align it to center to get it to go to the top of the page. And that also came as a tip from the CodePen page that I was on. Okay, and then the header is text is vertically centered in 16 pixels from the edge of the screen. So this is weird. This is one of the things I don't get. It says 16 pixels from the edge of the screen. So actually, I ended up taking that out. I had 16 pixels of margin in here in the header, but I took it out because you just have to take my word for it. It was not going over to the edge of the page. It was, as you would imagine, it was 16 pixels shifted in, which unfortunately does not match this, since this goes to the edge of the screen. Now, I don't know if this is just the screen grab they grabbed, because as you can tell, there's no URL in it, so it's not the entire page. So that was a little frustrating. I had to basically just assume that this was the entire viewport, and so I took that out, which again, that's frustrating because it says to put it in there. If you guys went through this exercise already and you have something to add to that, please comment below. I could be missing something. Next section is check as the footer is pushed to the bottom of the screen. The footer may go below the screen if the content of the card section overflows and or your screen is shorter. As we've seen the behavior, that does do that. So we'll jump down here real quick to the footer. I worked on the header first and then the footer, and then I went to the middle. It's kind of the workflow I did. So here's your footer. There's your height of 72 pixels. So basically I only added the display flex, again, justify center and align item center to get that thing to do that. To go, now this in itself won't shift it to the bottom. That's for an explanation here in a second. Let's just do that right now. So in order to get it to shift all the way to the bottom, you actually have to add a flex 1. I put 1.0 auto on all these, but you could get away with just doing flex 1. It's the same thing as we learned previously, but you have to add basically a wrapper. So I created the Holy Grail Holy Grail body inside of, if you remember, it's it's wrapping the sidebar and the card container together, and so that's kind of like acting as my wrapper, and so it flexes automatically but grows at a 1, and so does the sidebar, and it will flex auto, means it'll flex with the viewport. So since we have 100 VH here, that means that it will show the whole viewport and it won't bleed over or spill out off the page. And then I also have a card container. If you remember that, that's wrapping the cards. That is wrapping, so that keeps everything from bleeding off the edge of the page horizontally, and then the footer will automatically get shoved all the way to the bottom because we have these flexes set on, especially right here, Holy Grail body. So it's because that Holy Grail body is taking its flexing based on its growth. So both horizontally and vertically. So, but as you know, the body itself is set column, so it's going to flex vertically, if you will. Sorry, not horizontally. It's going to flex vertically. I mean, it does both, but sorry, I didn't do a very good job explaining that. Anyway, moving on. The sidebar and cards take up all the available space above the footer. So this is the one I got stuck on that I showed you that screenshot I took earlier. It took me a while to figure this out, and this was a part of me getting to the CodePen page. is what I was trying to figure out, because I wasn't familiar with the Holy Grail layout. So once I created the wrapper here, everything kind of fell into place. So once I created this, and then I also created the wrapper for the container and put this code in there, it started doing that. The sidebar then responded correctly. And so in the sidebar, the width is 300 pixels because it says it needs that. Through sidebar 300 pixel wide, and it doesn't shrink. So you put the flex 0, 1, 0 in. 0, as you remember, is flex shrink, so that means that it will not shrink. It will only grow. And padding is 16 because they're somewhere here I think it said 16. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, padding is 16. Order -1. That actually came from the code pen because basically, as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but this will be order operations for CSS. The -1 will mean this will be the first thing that's processed. So actually, this code gets processed even before like the header. So you know how you go down and specificity. Sorry, I can't say that word, but anyway, order -1 meaning that this takes priority. So this is going to get processed even before body. So like this will be the first thing that's processed, and that's important because that helps set up the stage with the width, and basically so that the width is honored, it's not overwritten by anything else, and the flex is honored, not overwritten by anything else, and the padding. Basically, this takes precedence. So in going down here, kind of getting out of order on the self-check, but that's all right. We have UL, which is the unordered list. This is for the links for the nav, the left-hand nav. So list style none, that takes off the. There's a thing in here that says the. Let's see. The sidebar links are 24 pixels white and do not have underlined text. So that gets rid of the underlined text. Remember the margin and padding, when we zero that out for margin and padding, that will take away that extra space in that's native in unordered lists. And going on here, I added in an anchor tag for text decoration none. That actually gets rid of the underline. Sorry, the list style none gets rid of the bullet dot that's in there, as we learned in the last exercise. Font size 24 pixels, which is asked for, and color is white, which is asked for. Going down here, we have card container. Again, this is the parent, or the flex container that wraps the cards. It's a flex, and we're wrapping it, and we're adding 32 pixels of padding. And because it's saying that right there, 32 pixels of padding. And then we go down to card. This is all in here, and then I added the margin and the width. It says the cards are arranged horizontally but wrapped to multiple lines, so when they run out of room on the page, which that's accomplished here. On the card itself, I added 32 pixels of margin and 300 pixels of width. I don't think it actually asked for that. Let's see. Well, it does here, I guess. So here's your 32 pixels of padding. I actually added that as margin. I don't know if that's necessary because we have padding here. But I think I had to add it because based on how the order operations, it wasn't padding the cards with the correct space. So that's why I added that there. We'll review this in the solution here in a second. And then the footer is everything we already went over that. That's standard, flex, justified, content center, line item center. So there is that. And so we'll go ahead and we'll look at the see, we're at 19 minutes. So basically their HTML solution file is the same as mine, except they call their wrapper, they have a body, and then they have a am I in the right one here? Yeah. So they have body, sidebar, and then they had container, footer. Do they have a dot? Yeah, so they have a they have a div. What they have is they call a class body for their div for their wrapper for the whole content. Yeah, and I called, so the difference is I called mine Holy Grail body. So that's about the only difference. So and then they called their card container, and I called mine card container just so it was easier to follow mentally for me. So comparing these CSS. Okay, so we have here, go down to the solution parts for the changes. Body is flex column, which we have that. And header is the additions is display flex, line item center, display flex, line item center. Padding of 0 and 16, I have 32 pixels of padding, sorry, no, I have no padding in mine. So that's an error I made. It worked, as you can see, my responsive page still works out. I think I ended up putting that padding inside of the card container instead. So a little error there. And then let's see, font weight 900, and font size 32 pixels. So yeah, everything else looks good there. Remember, I just was saying mine's called Holy Grail Body. Theirs is just called Body. Flex 1 is the same thing as Flex 1 0 Auto, and Display Flex. So those are good. Sidebar, they just have Flex Shrink 0 and Padding 16. I put in that -1 order because that was from my Google searching, and I have the Flex 1, so I didn't do my Flex Shrink correctly. And I thought about doing Flex Shrink, but I didn't, and that's when I Googled, and that's when I found this order and doing the flexing from that CodePen exercise. So I took a different route. That's probably also why I don't have padding in my header file, because it worked out because of slight differences. It still works. Both. I am at the point now where little things like that don't bother me, because as you guys are aware, if you're doing the exercises, there's several ways to do it right. This is probably just the cleanest. So there's your padding of 16, so I got that. And so moving down to UL, so they had a UL, which is nice, because this got a little confusing, these little holes in the project, so to speak, that you got to kind of figure out on your own. So list style type is basically the same thing as list style is none. That gets rid of the dot or the bullet point, and then we zero out the margin and padding, which is good. I added in an anchor tag for, oh, they did too. Thought they didn't do that. Okay. There's the color white, text decoration none, which takes away the underline on the hyperlink, and font size 24, so it looks good. And then I have my wrapper for my card container. They just call theirs container. Oh, and there is one thing I did miss. I noticed I do not have a list item margin bottom 16, probably because of the way I approached the Holy Grail build with the CodePen. So I didn't need to put in margin bottom on the 16 on the bottom, because assuming that's, yeah. So I don't want to, we're already at 23 minutes. So if you guys know what that's, we know what it does, but if you guys know why it's doing that or why they have that in there, go ahead and comment below. Going down to container, flex wrap, and 32 pixels of padding. Perfect. Nailed it. Card, they have padding of 16 and margin 16. So I have 32 for margin, and 300 for width. So the margin and padding, that's basically putting in, as you know, margin is outside the box, padding is inside between the text and the border. I didn't quite nail that. I just had the margin, and it looks like it's doubled, probably because of the approach again what I had with the CodePen example I used. And then the footer is flex align item center, and justify content center, which is the same thing I have here. And that is it. So got through this in 25 minutes. Again, thank you guys for coming along today on this journey with me. I hope it was educational and fun, and that you guys had success with this exercise. Let me know in the comments what you think. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content. And next time we'll be done with this. So we're going to be completing this and heading on to the next lesson. Okay, whatever. It's probably because it's timed out, but we're gonna be going on to the project, and we'll go over that. We'll be going over that next time in the recording on the next one. So I think that's probably gonna take me a while. I haven't looked at it yet, so maybe a while before I put up another recording. But with that said, until next time, see ya.